All right, we're live.
I wish this was something stronger. I'm usually the tea guy. Should have been something stronger tonight. So,
This is just water, so we're in the same boat.
okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How much powder do you want to keep dry? Do you want to just hit the podcast here and go so that we keep everything going, or do you want to vent a little bit before we hit the official
Well, I mean,
clock?
I did the post game last night. I was on Bill's post game show. I was his first guest, our brand new post game show. So I got a lot of my venting out then. So I don't know. I think I'm more depressed now than I was last. This is supposed to be the cool down show, but I think I'm worse now than I was yesterday. I don't know. I guess we can get going here.
All right. Yeah. Let's just, you know what? Let's not mess around. Let's get in it and let's vent on the record, right? This is
Yeah.
one record, but let's vent on the podcast record. So let's get it rocking and rolling here. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Burkus, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined by the editor of that fine website, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Bears continued the misery, this time against Jordan Love, a beatdown at the hands of the Packers. Other than that, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, all things considered, it's just a bad, sad. That game stung so much. I mean, it was the Packers, so obviously everything's going to be escalated. But week one loss, there was no scenario I imagined would be like this, and it just was terrible. Jordan Love 1-0 now against the Chicago Bears. Is he starting a new trend here?
Here's what number one. We talked about this when the schedule came out. This made me so mad. I did not want this game to lead off the year. Now, as just an NFL fan, we know that what you see in September is not what you're going to see in November and December out of these football teams, right? It takes a while to know what these teams are. So your brain knows that this is not what the football team is going to look like in a couple of months. But everything else, your gut, your heart, like everything else is just wrenched dry. I could not sleep that well coming into that game because there's just so much emotion riding in it. And I got to tell you, last night I slept really well, not because I was in a good mood, but because there was just this release of tension.
You were
from
drained.
The game. Finally,
Yeah.
I was drained. I slept very well last night because I think I was just exhausted.
I was up. I'm always up later usually. I like the noon games because then I can kind of do my thing. I have a few things I have to do with the site. There's a couple articles I have to get out. I have of course my Monday morning article, the stats and snap counts article I do. So I was up working on some of that stuff. I was tweaking a few other things. I couldn't sleep. I was up till almost 2 a.m., which is not good for me when I have to work the next morning. So, but then like I said, once I knocked out, I was fine. I woke up and like I was telling you earlier, I did the post game show with Bill Zimmerman. We have a brand new post game show here on the channel. That was exciting. I'm not a big post game fan. I don't like doing them that much because I don't want to sound too meatball-y. But that game was so bad. It was just so awful. So many things went wrong. I don't think I could have. There was no level of meatball I could have went to, or it would have been offensive to anybody because it's like, yeah, he should be pissed. And Bill's great. Bill was fired up. He got me going a few times. So, here we are day after. Like I said, we're supposed to be the cool down show, but I'm still kind of I still feel it a little bit.
Well, and you also had your in-game commentary that you did on the app that you're newly involved with this year.
Pro Sports Fans app. It was not a fun debut. Neither me or my co-host wanted to have the week one. We just didn't want to be the guinea pigs for the app. It was a horrible game to talk about through it. It was fun though. I mean, we had a bunch of fans pop in and out of the chat, and we had a couple guys we brought on air with us. So it was interesting. I think our next one we're scheduled to do is the Denver game, which I think week 4. So it is what it is. It was fun. Hopefully it's a better outcome the next time we get a chance to do it.
All right, well, let's get into some of this terribleness that was. We always start off with the Trench tribute, which, boy, I tell you what, if there was a game to ever show how important the trenches are, this was it. So Uh, let's start with you. Who did you identify as your trench tribute in week one? There's not a lot to choose from, by the way.
This was hard. This was hard. Like watching it live, nobody stood out. Usually when I watch it live, I have a couple guys in the back of my mind. Okay, I got to make sure when I do the rewatch, I got to keep a closer eye on this guy. I think he did pretty good. Nothing. Nobody. No one stood out on my initial watch. So watching it back through, I kind of like, okay. I looked at some of the numbers on defense. I'm like, okay, Yannick Ngakwe.
Okay.
That's the only guy I could find. One sack, four tackles, two tackles for loss. Um, he's pretty quick off the ball. I know
Mhm.
there's a lot of talk about get off here this last offseason because of some of the Bears draft picks, but he gets off the ball pretty quick. He's a playmaker. He's the only guy the Bears really had that can get pressure, it seems. I mean, it's 1 week. Obviously, things could change. Maybe Dominique Robinson will learn a pass rush counter move next week. But so far, 1 week, he was the one guy that really stood out to me on that in the trenches of the Bears.
Yeah, I saw a stat earlier about the fastest average get off, and he made the list.
Okay.
And there was like 3 Eagles that made the list, which gives you an idea of where the Eagles are built. But he had a very quick release off the snap, so you hope again that other guys can maybe learn from him on that. And one thing I wanted to say is that I have been watching him play all over the league for the last few years,
Yeah.
and I pronounce it Yannick, and I keep hearing it being pronounced Yannick, like
Yannick.
unique. And I'm like,
Yeah.
have I been saying it wrong for the last few years? So apologies to the Ngakwe's if I have been mispronouncing Yannick's name incorrectly, but we will get it right, particularly if he continues to provide pressure, which he was pretty much the only one that did. And and not only that, it was the only sack, right?
One
And
sack.
and it was like I don't know, Love held the ball for like 5 seconds. That was a coverage sack.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very bad day, which we will get into, I think, a little bit more as we roll along. All right, for me, I can't highlight anybody on that offensive line. That's definitely not going to happen. And so I figured we wanted to make sure that we gave a little bit of credit to Ngakwe. For me, it's Andrew Billings.
Okay.
Now, not splashing the stat sheet at all. He had 2 tackles, fine. But he looks like a legitimate space eater in the middle, right? And he was controlling blocks in the middle. And you look at the yards per carry that the big running back, AJ Dillon had for the Packers, not impressive. I think he had off the top of my head, so sorry if this is wrong, but 13 carries for 19 yards or something like that. So,
Sounds about right.
a really poor day from him. Obviously, Aaron Jones had more of the splashy plays, but I would say that Dillon's the guy that they want to ram between the tackles. They want him to run up the middle, and then Billings is really eating up space. And even if he's not putting numbers up on the stat sheet, he's the one that's kind of controlling that space, right? It's kind of one of those I'm a giant guy, you got to move me off my spot, and everybody else just kind of like revolves around him. So to me, that stood out, and that's a stabilizing presence in the interior where you hope that the Bears can be a little bit better against the run this year than they were last year.
Yeah, Billings stood out a little bit. I noticed a few of the Bears defensive tackles. They had some nice penetration. It's hard to know how far they're supposed to go. Like when they do the penetrations, if it's a very precise defense, they have to be in the right gaps at all times. Obviously, the front four, the linebackers, they all have a gap assignment. So sometimes those guys were penetrating a little too much. I'm not sure if that was okay. I mean, the coaches are who knows that they grade the film, they know what they're doing, but it'll be interesting watching how this group grows because I mean there is some potential there. I mean, as run stoppers, I'm still curious where the pass rush will come from besides Yannick Ngakoue. And let me just say, me getting a name right instead of you, that's rare air here for Bear and Balance. Usually you're the guy that gets all the names correct, and I'm butchering everybody's name. So I got the Yannick in the back
I
pocket there.
I don't know that you got it right. I thought you said Yannick,
Oh,
but
did
I'm
I?
just
No, I
I'm
went
just
with Yannick. I
well,
meant
we're gonna
to.
get it right from now on if that's the case.
From now on,
I
yeah,
mean, it
yeah.
has to have been some sort of note that was given to announcers because I had never heard it pronounced that way before. So, all right. Well, again, not much else to really report off of the offensive or defensive lines, but just as like a bigger note, and I don't know, maybe we can splash this here, but Ryan Poles being a guy that played offensive line in college and came in with some talk that he was going to figure this offensive line out. He didn't like anybody that was here. He was going to, really build this offensive line. He's going to build up front on the defensive line. The Bears win against a team that has done that.
Yeah.
And that showed out completely yesterday. The Packers are deep and they're talented on both lines, and they whipped the Bears up front the entire game. And nothing was more obvious than the number of pressures that the Bears had, which our friend Brad Spielberger at PFF said the Bears had like 6 defensive pressures, and they gave up some insane number like 35, which was second worst only to the Giants last night, who gave up 36. So again, depending on where you get those numbers, those might be a little different. But according to our friend Brad Spielberger, it was 35-6, and it felt like that.
Yeah.
If you actually watched the game, it felt exactly like that. So I think we need to put the general manager on notice and say, if you want to compete in this league and you want to do what you say you're good at, we need to see some results.
That's the thing. I mean, he came in talking about the trenches. We were fired up because that's what he wanted to talk about addressing. And then, of course, his first year, we weren't happy with the moves he made on the line. Yeah, he had a reset, a rebuild in mind. So maybe that's what he was doing there. But then year 2, Nate Davis, and that was really it. And then he gets a guy in the draft, Darnell Wright. I mean, I like Wright. I think Wright's got a good future in the NFL. Was got to see more out of him. Obviously, Nate Davis had a shaky start to his Bears career. A couple draft picks on the D line. Let's see how they all come together. I mean, it's early in his tenure as a GM, but I got to tell you, man, I'm with you so far. I'm not happy with the trenches.
Yeah, really ignore the center position.
Oh,
I mean,
jeez.
it's very obvious when you watch this line. Well, watch it in camp; it was bad. So, yeah, it's on notice for me. Let's move on to our tweet of the week. I'll start off. Our friend Chad Vonk says, "If George McCaskey had the capacity to feel shame, he'd publicly resign tomorrow. Quote: I'm just a fan. End quote. F off, George. I'm just a fan. You're the one person in the world with the responsibility to make the Bears successful. Stop gleefully announcing that you're proudly incompetent." Woo! Chad Vonk bringing it. I asked everybody on Twitter to give me your saltiest, hottest take, whatever it was, and I would feature my favorite one on the show. This one brought it. This is a 105-mile-an-hour fastball from Chad. What do you think?
That nailed it. I
Yeah,
mean, we've been critical on the show about George McCaskey in the past. We hoped he was on the right track by hiring a couple guys and just getting out of the way. But, ultimately, man, this comes down to George McCaskey's the guy that has been presiding over this team. And during his era, it has been awful. The Packers. I mean, that's the rival. I mean, that's who him and his mother have talked about so much, beating the Packers. The record against them during his tenure is, I think you tweeted about it earlier, didn't you?
did 3-22.
Just terrible, terrible. It's unacceptable. And I mean, there's only so much he can do it where he's at. He's got to put the guys in place and step back. And we talked about Ryan Poles. We're not sure about that move. Coach Eberflus, we'll see how this goes. But so far as through a couple years, the jury is out on what McCaskey has decided to do here.
And again, George McCaskey seems like a nice human
Yeah.
being. I've met him. I've talked to him multiple times. He posed for a picture with us when we were at camp. He posed for a picture with my mom when I took her to the Bears game last year. Like, he's around everywhere. He likes to be amongst the fans. That's great. He's not a terrible human being. That's not what we're saying. But ultimately, as the chairman of an organization, a multi-billion-dollar organization, like, you need to be held accountable for results. And when year after year you just are not getting results, you're probably not in the right position to continue to do that, right? He's made multiple decisions that have led to what we have here. And so again, we have high hopes for Ryan Poles still. Like, the jury's still out. We hope that he can show that he's competent and that he's going to build a winner. And we're excited about what Kevin Warren can do and all those things. This is not one game and throw everything out, but it feels fair to call out the guy at the top after something like this that's so important to Bears fans. It's why I really hated this being the week 1 matchup. It's just there's so much emotion tied up into it for you, for me, for every Bears fan, and we're just kind of sick of this 3-22 since McCaskey took over. It's also coincidentally 3-22 since they lost the NFC Championship game at home against the Packers, right? So you even
Oh,
take those two losses, the one in like the last week of the year and the NFC Championship game, it's 3-24. So it's brutal. It's brutal.
yeah, right now, again, all we have is hope. Hopefully Kevin Warren's the right guy to right this ship. We'll see. Time will tell.
All right, let's head over to you. What'd you come up with?
I got a 2-for-1 here because I saw a tweet from Matt Bowen at Matt Bowen 41. Moving forward with the Bears, need a highlighted section of the game plan that reads: Get DJ the ball. Concepts that fit his receiving traits plus scheme touches. DJ Moore had 2 targets today. And when I saw that tweet, I'm like, that reminds me of a tweet from another guy I saw earlier today. Our guy at Gridiron Born, which is here, our friend Jeff Burkus. What's the identity of this Bears offense right now? Screens are a changeup, not your fastball. Stop acting like that's an offense. Your best target is DJ Moore. Run the offense through him. It's not Cole Kmet, Kerry Blasingame, or Cap Bozo. It's DJ. And then you did an emoji. Mother effing Moore. Use him. It's not like Luke Getzey is not from an offense that had a dynamic receiver. The Packers, Devontae Adams, that was his guy. Luke Getzey was a receivers coach. That was his guy. He brought him up. He brought him along. He coached him up. Became one of the top receivers in the game. The rest of the Packer receiving core was not very good. They ran that offense. Yes, it's Aaron Rodgers, so that obviously has a big say here, but they ran a lot of it through Devontae Adams. What he could do, he would dictate coverages. They'd base stuff off that. They still found a way to get Adams the ball. Now, I'm not saying that DJ Moore is in that same class. I mean, I think he's a true number one, but Adams is a step above here. But DJ Moore is a good route runner. He's good with yak. He has good hands. There's more you can do. Coach Eberflus talked about in this press conference today how he has to figure out a way to get him the ball. You're damn right you do. I mean, you made the trade. You brought him in to be the guy. 2 targets. He caught them both, but 2 targets, that's ridiculous. He should have 7, 8, 9, 10 targets per game minimum.
Yeah, I mean, this is why you get a guy like this is because you run your offense through him, right? So that play calls start, right? That's how it starts. Is where's the first read? What are you trying to accomplish here? And who's the primary target, right? It's not like everybody has an equal chance of getting the ball on every single pass play. These plays are designed for read 1, read 2, check it down, right? And so if you're not trying to get the ball in his hands, we have no idea how many play calls were specifically designed for DJ Moore. We never will. But again, you should be approaching this like we got to get the ball in his hands 7, 8, 9 times a game. That's just, do you think the Vikings are trying to do that with Justin Jefferson? All of these teams with good wide receivers, they're trying to put the ball in their hands so that they can try to make plays. The Bears weren't trying to do that. They just had no sense of purpose. And my point of what's the identity. Last year, at least they established a power run game. I
Yeah.
didn't see any real attempt at that. The only thing that I kept seeing were these screenplays. And my point with the pitching analogy is that's a changeup. And a changeup only works really if you can throw a good fastball. And so it doesn't make sense to me to just keep throwing those changeups out there. The Packers are just sitting on them. They weren't in a susceptible defense to get gashed by that, by those screens. They were just sitting on them, waiting on them. And so it was just terrible play calling by Luke Getzey with no feel for the game. And then I don't know. Do you want to talk about the lack of blocking for these screenplays at this point? Or do you want to
Yeah.
save that a little later?
I mean, it was bad. I mean, there's a lot of cold to discuss this week. Yeah, I just didn't understand what some of the concepts were. On the rewatch, there was a nice screen early to Herbert. A couple of those pop pretty good. I think there was may have been a check down to Foreman. I know there were a few times, but the Chase Claypool didn't get a block on one. One of the throws to Claypool, he was tipped and he bobbled it. They know these are coming. I saw something. I think our guy Robert Schmitz tweeted out that they had one play where they had Cole Kmet and Blasingame were split out wide. Oh, well, of course. Why are they out there? Because they're going to try and do the slip screen behind them with the receiver. Like, what are we doing? We're tipping our pitches. So we talked about on the show last night with Bill, man. Luke Getsy, this is a big year for him. We've come a long way from Bears fans saying, "Oh my God, the Bears are going to set up an offense and then they're going to lose Luke Getsy after a season." No, now Bears fans want to get rid of Luke Getsy because they think he sucks. Which I think that's a little harsh, but again, the jury's out on Getsy. It's a huge year for him. We got to see more from Getsy. Part of it is, and I see this a lot. It's in our comment section now. They don't trust Fields. Well, if that's the case, you had all offseason to address that. That's not what you did. So I can't see that being the case. This is just, whether it's coming from Coach Flus is be conservative or whether it's just Getsy's nature, they got to shake it out of it and they got to start doing something different.
Yeah, okay. If they don't trust Fields, it's over.
It's over.
I mean, like, it's done right now.
Done.
The season's over, right? So if you came into this and you don't trust him, then there's no path forward because you can't build the ship out of not trusting your quarterback, right? And so if this is a case where Luke Getsy forgot the experience that he gained last year when he switched up the system and they went into New England and they started running Justin more, and all of a sudden the offense opened up a little bit, and you let him try to hunt deep and all that. If you forgot about that and then you tried to make him into something different in the offseason, then I don't understand that, right? So this is why I was somewhat hopeful coming into this year, was that you had something to point to from last year that said, okay, Getsy came in, he tried to do A, didn't really work, so he changed and he understood what Justin Fields was good at and he tried B. And then B worked. And then, yes, there was some growing pains because defenses adjusted, but for the most part, the second half of last year looked a lot better than the first half.
Yep.
And now you're in a situation where he had all off season to work with him, and you got a bunch of screenplays and checkdowns. And that leads me, just lead me to my stat of the week. 2.9 air yards per attempt.
Oh,
that's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's a lot of behind the line of scrimmage on the screens. That's a lot of checkdowns. That's a lot of short passes. Fields' air yards per attempt last year was 4.3. That's fine. Like, if you're somewhere around the 4.5 mark, that's fine. Unless you are like a real yak merchant, right? Like 4.5, 5, you're fine. You're taking enough deep shots. You're letting your guys catch and run with some of the short balls and maybe a couple screen passes. 4.5 to 5 is kind of the number that you'd like to see for a good quarterback. 2.9 is bad. 2.9 is really bad. And you get that way by having an incredibly conservative approach that basically is what it looked like to me Getsy had in mind. Like, he came in the first quarter and was like, well, let's not lose this thing. And it's like, wait, you haven't done anything yet. There's no aggression here. What is this? Right. So to me, that's one of those stats that really just pops out that says you do not understand what you're trying to do here.
What makes it so bad is they had all off season. They knew they had the Packers. This is the game plan. Yeah, I know you always hear, oh, they don't really do much game planning. It's there. You understand who the team you're having week one. You can start having these concepts in mind, what you want to try and work on during actual game week. It's there, and this was it. So at some point along the way, Getsy and the offensive staff, or maybe the head coach, they said, hey, let's be conservative in this first week. The Packers defense is this. I mean, they ran a ton of zone, which is Justin Fields will see a ton of zone because he's so fast. You cannot play man against the running quarterback. It's just, you can do it once in a while, but it's just not a good idea. He will torch you when you turn your back and run with the receivers. He will just take off and run and pick up gobs of yards. So please play man against the Bears. But it's all zone. He saw a ton of zone, and we're going back to the DJ Moore stuff. Where was a slant? I mean, why is this team allergic to slants? It's a Packer staple,
Right.
Why are the Bears allergic to slants? I don't understand it.
I don't either. What did you have for the stat?
For my stat this week is 15.5. And That was the over under that was most books set for Chase Claypool receiving yards. And a lot of Bears fans jumped on that. Like, wow, 15.5. This guy had an outstanding training camp. Him and the Justin Fields connection was pretty real. 50, that's one catch and run. I'm not a huge betting guy, but I put some money on that for DraftKings. I had that part of my prize picks parlay thing there. Nothing. No catches, no yards. Chase Claypool. The effort from Claypool has been getting dragged on social media all day long. People are posting clips of him just kind of dogging it. You know, we heard from people that were at the game. Does not look like he's into the game. This is going to go down as just an awful, awful move. Again, going back to Ryan Poles, and who is Chase Claypool? I mean, he's going to be out of the league. He's in his contract year, and this is the kind of effort, this piss poor. What are you doing? The block he got blown up on. When I was on the app talking about it, we talk about Braxton Jones can't anchor. Chase Claypool can't anchor. He's going against a guy that's 5'10", 200 pounds. Chase Claypool is a physical specimen, and he got his ass whipped back in the Darnell Mooney. Awful effort by Chase Claypool.
Last year, he gets the Bears trade for Claypool. He comes over and he just, he's injured. He's kind of struggles. There's just some weird stuff that happens. And you just kind of like, okay, on a personal level, that's probably really tough to get traded. Maybe there's some animosity leaving the Steelers, and it's new people, and you're learning a new offense. And like, I gave him a pass. Like I'm not going to judge what he did last year like that. That to me, just on a human level, I can't do, because I can just imagine a million stories of why it's hard to be able to do that. You've got a whole off season. You're hanging out with Justin. You're chippy in camp, right? You're mixing it up with the defenders. Like you're dropping at a dime to push and shove your teammates, because you're so fired up. Then you get into a game and you do this. This is, I'm out. Like, very quick for me to be like, oh, okay, you're terrible. Like, this is, if you don't show an effort, what's the point? Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me how you could get blown up on a block and let Mooney get knocked out for a loss on that play. And there were multiple plays. He completely olayed a block downfield, and the guy ended up, I think, in on the tackle. I mean, like, it's just no effort, right? And so yeah, I'm willing to circumstance. Oh, it's fine. Yeah, last year, like, just write it off. But you come in this year and this is your week one effort. There's no possible excuse for this. And honestly, the same thing for the Nate Davis stuff, right? Nate Davis doesn't practice. We don't know why. Okay, fine. It's not our right to know exactly what's happening with the guy. Maybe it's personal. Maybe it's an injury that they don't need to disclose. That's true. We said the whole time, I don't care if he doesn't practice. If he comes in and he plays well, like, then fine, right? Like that's all that matters. He was terrible yesterday. He looked like he didn't want to be on that football field either.
Yeah.
So now you've got two of your starters that look like they have no interest in being on the field in a rivalry game in week one. I know that this game means more to fans than it does to the players. I get that. I understand that. But this has to mean a little bit to you, right? Nate Davis, you just got paid. Maybe show up to the job you're getting paid to do. And Chase Claypool, you want to get paid. So maybe show up to the job that you want to get paid to do. Unbelievable. They both deserve to be called out. Claypool deserves to get dragged. So does Nate Davis on any social media right now, because that effort is on film. We all have access to this. If some of us have more access than others, I guess, but we all have access to this to some extent. And I think they deserve every morsel of it.
If you're Coach Eberflus and your whole philosophy hits philosophy, these are your principles. This is what your entire coaching staff are preaching to your players. This is what's going on here. And then you have that effort. I'm curious what's going to happen this week. I would not be surprised if he's the guy that's inactive next week. Bring up Equanimeous St. Brown, because I tell you what, Equanimeous St. Brown, he would have made those blocks.
He would try. Yep, absolutely.
He would try. He's a try-hard guy.
Absolutely.
Oh,
at some point, that's what Bears fans like. You want the try-hard guy, right?
Yeah.
I don't care what this guy looks like with his shirt off. I want him to
give me Josh Bellamy out there.
I want him to get a block.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. We talked a
Fields.
little bit about Fields already, but let's talk about it. So 24 of 37 for 216 yards, one interception, one fumble loss, took 4 sacks, carried the ball 9 times for 59 yards. I don't believe any of those carries were design runs though.
I think
Like one?
there
Okay.
was one late quarterback draw that kind of pissed me off because I'm like, why are you running a quarterback draw at this
Oh,
point in the game? And that annoyed the hell out of me. Another gutsy issue there. But yeah, it was mostly scrambles, which is what you want to see. I mean, this was the second most ever completions and attempts in his career.
but not a lot of yards. I
Not a
mean,
lot of yards.
for that many attempts, I think again that's really overall reflection of the 2.9 air yards per
Air
attempt.
yards.
Only 2 of those 37 passes traveled more than 10 yards in the air. That is just unacceptable in the
Both were
air.
complete, I believe I saw.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
let them push down the field, right? And again, I get a lot of people. Well, Fields is choosing to not pull the trigger on some. Undoubtedly, that's true.
yes.
Undoubtedly, he had passes available to him that he didn't take. I still think that there was so much that was called that was designed for him to, throw the screen pass or dump it off quick. So maybe he needs to get and pressure in his face 35 times. Like let's talk about that. I mean, again, if those PFF numbers are real, and he was pressured 35 of 46
Yeah.
dropbacks, 45 dropbacks. I mean, that's an insane percentage. And if you've got pressure in your face instantly, what are you supposed to do, right? You are supposed to kind of dump that off. So again, undoubtedly, some of those throws are there. He needs to be quicker on the trigger. But overall, I think that the offensive line, the game plan, maybe some of his receivers' lack of effort didn't help him either.
Yeah, I saw a stat come across Twitter earlier today. I wish I would have grabbed it because it was kind of interesting. It was, I think he was 10 of 14 when he had a clean pocket. So he did have a clean pocket on occasion. The ball came out a little quicker on some of the plays. But when he was pressured, obviously there were issues. And, look, he's a third-year quarterback now. He's going to get pressured. He has to understand, where his hots are. He has to get rid of the ball quicker. This has been a question about him his entire career. Last year, I kind of gave him a pass because he was throwing to, a bunch of guys that are no longer in the league and a bunch of guys that just kind of are bad or on practice squads around the league. So, now he's got a better receiving core, you know, which is odd to say after I just ripped Chase Claypool. We thought he would be a better receiving core, but he's still got DJ Moore, um, you know, Robert Tunyon, who didn't play much in the game. So let's see how this develops. Let's see how Luke Getsy and Justin Fields can kind of tweak this and move on. Justin Fields in his press conference after the game, I mean, he seemed a little upset. I mean, at one point he actually addressed the camera where he's like, he basically apologized and, he vows to get better, which is he's accountable. He understands the pick was his, all on him. That was broken down quite a bit. I know Matt Bowen did a breakdown of that on Twitter earlier today as well. So he knows what he did wrong. He knows what he has to fix. Can he do it? As Bears fans, if he doesn't, if he's not the guy, holy crap, here we go again. You know
Oh, let's shelve that one for a little bit. I don't think
exactly.
I don't think I have it in me to talk about that today. So we're gonna take a quick break. On the other side of this, we're gonna talk about everybody's favorite segment, the Three Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester. Let's talk Three Bears: hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Who did you have for your hot bowl of porridge? Not a lot to choose from.
I got to tell you, man, this is a first for me. The spirit of of this category is a player that exceeded expectations. Someone that did something high, like, hey, I wasn't expecting this. I watched the game. I watched the game again. I looked over the stat sheets. I couldn't find anything. I thought about TJ Edwards because he had 14 tackles, but I kind of expect that. I mean, that's what he does. He comes in here from Philly, 150 some tackles last year. That's what he does. I mean, that's expected out of TJ Edwards. Tremaine Edmonds had some nice sticks. He looked physical at the point of attack. He was all over the field doing stuff. He had, eight or nine tackles too. So I expect that. I got nothing this week. I got no hot bowl of porridge to give out. No one exceeded expectations as far as I was concerned this week. And usually I try and come up with something witty, like, oh, that's kind of a play on words. There's something fun. I wasn't in the mood the friggin' Packers just kicked the Bears' butt. I got nothing this week. How about you? What do you got?
That's fair. I'm wearing my shirt.
There it is. The
So that's
guillotine. Okay.
the Trenton Gill guillotine shirt. And yeah, I guess it's a little tongue in cheek, right? To name the punter your hot bullet porch. I get it. But he was very consistent. And I think he had a 53-yard punt average with a long of 54, and he had 4 punts. So goes to show you, like, it was pretty much everything was over 50. He was able to boom it. And it just, there's more distance on his punts this year. One did
Yeah.
not get covered very well. I don't think that was his fault. I don't think it was a low hang time situation. I think the Packers honestly just got a good return off of it. But overall, I think you see that he's added distance to his punts. I think we're going to see more of that this year. When we were at camp, he was incredibly accurate in trying to coffin corner or try to get him inside the 10 or the 5. Not a lot of opportunities for that yesterday. These were more of the booming punts, but I think he's really developing into a solid punter, and he has his own shirt out there, so that's pretty cool. So I don't have anything else. It's just
It's a hard
like
one.
you said, it was very hard when your
38
team
20. What are you going to do?
no,
I don't know.
yeah. So what about Cold Bowl? Where do you want to go with this? Who have we not called out that we want to
You know,
call out? That's pretty
there
much
are
what this is right now.
there are so many ways to go with this. I actually, what my initial one I was going to do, you touched on earlier, the tweet from PFF Brad, our guy Brad Spielberger. So my initial call is going to be the pass rush and the pass protection. Like you said, the Packers had 35 pressures according to their tracking. That was second best, besides the Cowboys in week 1. And then the Bears side, their pass rush, they only had 6 pressures. 10% pass rush win rate, which is the lowest mark they've had since 2021. Just the trenches. We talked about at the top. The trenches were bad this week. And as a Ryan Poles, as a former old lineman, we figured he would have that change, and it's not the case. And I will do one more cold here just because I had him as my number 2. Braxton Jones,
Mm.
bunch of penalties. Officially, he was credited with 4. One of those penalties I think may have been because at one point they called, the entire O-line, illegal procedure. I think Braxton Jones in the record books, he got that for whatever reason, because that's what it looked like. So he got 4 officially in there. And here's another weird thing is his pass block grade for PFF was like 90 something. He only gave up 1 pressure, which is weird because I watched it back and watched Braxton Jones. Like, man, he had a nice game. But those penalties are all any fan are going to think about because that's the life of an alignment.
One was bad, right? I mean, one was like pretty clear. The other one, I thought, like, you got to know when to let go, right? That's
Yes.
we talk a lot about that with, you can grab him in the chest plate. That's what it's there for. As an O lineman, that's what it's there for. But if you don't let go when that guy moves in a certain way, it's going to pull away from his body. And a lot of times that's at the point of attack as the quarterback's trying to get around, which is exactly what was happening in that moment. And because of that, the ref is following with his eyes. He's following that quarterback. And so he's going to see that, and it's easy for him to throw that flag. So you have to have the awareness. But when that guy moves in a certain way, you got to let your hand go. That's all. That's all it is. And so that was unfortunate. Hopefully he learns from that. But otherwise, yeah, it's Mars and otherwise really good performance. And again, this is the guy he didn't miss a snap last year. So this is the guy that is the most consistent on this offensive line. And like you say, had a good PFF grade, which whatever, I have my own issues with PFF
Yeah,
grades, but
we
like,
do.
okay, pass block, win rate, well, all that kind of stuff. You hope he's taking that step, but he's got to make sure he cleans that stuff up. All right. So I'm going to call out Alan Williams.
Okay, good. I'm
The
glad we
defensive
had a place to put him on here. That's good.
the defensive coordinator. What are you doing? What is this? What is this soft cloud coverage that you're allowing Jordan Love to sit back there with only rushing 4? You're going against a Packers offensive line that's really good. You're not going to run any stunts. You're not going to run blitz. You're not going to blitz at all. You're not going to run any games up front. You're just going to let them comfortably block the 4-man rush that is inept. And then you're just going to sit back in soft cloud coverage and let Jordan Love pick you apart on third down. He was not good. He was not efficient. This was not a masterful Rodgers performance. This was wide receivers wide open because you're playing prevent defense in a game that you're tied or losing. I it was terrible. This was a terrible defensive philosophy. And I mean, watching it again, it just felt even worse. That I don't think you can blame corners or safeties in most of these situations because the plays giving up 10 yards before it's called. There was one play early on. The safeties are it was 3rd and 13, that 3rd and 13 play.
Oh,
The
yeah.
safeties are like 25 yards back. What are we doing, Alan Williams? So no, I don't understand this. You either don't understand what you have on defense, which you would think is a strong secondary, right? So like let them man up and let them try to lock down receivers. You don't have much of a pass rush, so you need to find ways either by stunts and or with blitzing. You didn't do any of that or very little of it. Very low blitz rate, unbelievably low blitz rate, and you're playing a team that has I don't know, inexperienced wide receivers and an inexperienced quarterback that you just don't heat up. That I don't understand against a really good offensive line. Like this is just complete unawareness of your team strengths and weaknesses and their team strengths and weaknesses.
This is Jordan Love's second ever start as a professional quarterback. I know he's been in the league. This is his fourth year, but this is his second ever start. And what do you hear every time you face a young quarterback? You got to pressure him.
Heat them up.
Get him off his spot. You can't just let him sit in the pocket because any quarterback, any professional quarterback, if he has time, he will make plays. Now you mentioned Jordan Love was not accurate. He missed some plays in the first half. I think at one point he was like less than 50%. Midway through the third quarter, so he was missing guys. But you're not pressuring him. I talked about a little bit last night on Bill's show. It's not the Tampa 2, but it's a lot of the same principles. They want to play their zone coverages. They want to rally to the ball. They want to make the tackle, get turnovers, and you would think at this point he would understand what he has. Lovie Smith put that defense in the first year. They were atrocious, but then as they learned how to trust each other. They learned where the zone is, knowing the spacing of those zones, having trust in the guys in front of you for the gap integrity on the run fits, having all that trust takes time to build up. So even though this is year 2 of the system, how many new faces are in that front 7? A lot of them are new. So they're trying to get used to it. Hopefully it gets better because it can't get much worse than what we saw.
Well, and I'll just honorable mention Coach Flus. We're getting dangerously close to the office space. What would you say you do here? I don't know, man. I'm not seeing hit philosophy. I'm not seeing any kind of influence on a defense. What are you doing here? So, okay. Just right.
Am I going first here?
Yeah. I need to calm down.
I'm going back to special teams here.
Okay.
For the just right. How nice was it? The Bears had a punt returner, Trent Taylor. There was no nervousness. The ball's in the air. I'm like, he's going to catch it. 2 punt returns, just 16 yards. He had 1 fair catch, but there was no nervousness. Like, oh my God, please catch it. Please catch it. Please catch it. He's a good returner. I mean, that's kind of what he has. That's kind of what's had him stay in the league. Good hands. Just right. Trent Taylor. And then speaking of that, where was Velus Jones? Inactive. Another Ryan Poles, mistake there from last year. His first ever offensive draft pick. Inactive, and they talked him up too. He's our kick returner. Well, apparently he's not because the rookie Tyler Scott was doing it here in week 1.
Velus Jones was having a cold bowl of porridge himself.
Yes.
I'm going to take Roshan Johnson. 5
Nice.
carries, 20 yards, 6 catches on 7 targets for 35 yards. Now, I know a lot of that was late in the game. That is what it is. But I thought that he looked like I expected him to look. He got a number of carries. He got a number of targets that made me feel like, okay, he's going to be part of this game. Now, a lot of people are like, he's the guy. Like he's RB1. It's like, Khalil Herbert's still a good football player. Let's let this play out a little bit. I think they like Foreman as well. I don't mind a three-headed monster. This isn't going to all of a sudden be Christian McCaffrey, taking all of the touches for an offense, right? So this is what you like to see early on. Again, 11 touches for a rookie in his first game. We've talked about this a lot. Running backs can make plays early. There's not a huge learning curve. But this guy has, I think, a pretty high likelihood of being a fan favorite pretty early. He also upgraded numbers before the season started, so that was cool to see. He's
23, yeah.
now wearing 23. 30. I'm not a big 30 fan. It doesn't do anything for me. 23 is obviously a very special number in Chicago. It's also just in general a good football number. So nice to see that happen. But he gets my just right.
That's a good pick. I like what he did. He didn't play a lot early. It was mostly Herbert and Deontay Foreman. I did see one play early on where they had Johnson in with Herbert, which is something I think you can do because Johnson, when he was at Texas, he was all over the place. He's a former quarterback. That's what he was. He was recruited out of high school as a quarterback guy. So he has some other skill sets here where you can kind of do stuff with him. Get creative, Luke Getsy, do something. And we'll see what happens as the year goes on. But like you, I think they're going to keep with a three-headed monster for a while, and then maybe ride the hot hand at some point. But Khalil Herbert's a good runner, so let's not push him to the side too quickly. I think Herbert's going to be fine.
We call that the pony package, right? When you get a couple of running backs out there like that.
There it is. SMU.
All right. That's our Three Bears segment. Anything final thoughts? Anything we missed? Anybody you want to take a shot at to make yourself feel better before we get out of here?
I just want to put this game behind us. I mean, I got sack watch I got to work on this week at some point. We've just got a few other articles coming up about the thing. I got another recap show tomorrow night on the app. I got to do a little bit. So I just want to get this Packer game away. It's just week one losses always stings even worse here than it's the Packers.
Well, we've got, a full lineup of shows, of course. Like you said, Bill debuted his post-game show yesterday. Obviously, we've got this show. EJ and I will be back with another season of Bears Over Beers. It'll be more of an Ask Us Anything approach, kind of a hang session on Wednesday night. And that'll really be the pivot between looking behind us, the last game, and then looking forward. We're also welcoming a guest who writes about the Bucs on Wednesday night. So we'll talk a little bit about their surprise victory in week one over the Vikings. So that's interesting, right? I think that was a little bit of a surprise. Also, maybe not a surprise because I don't think the Vikings are that good, but also, the Bucs are supposed to be bad. So that was kind of a fun thing with Baker Mayfield doing that. And then, of course, you've got Taylor's Making Monsters. You've got Bill's Normal Show, and we'll have Mason in his slot talking about the game preview on Thursday, and then back with you probably on Friday to talk
Friday night
formation, and then we do it all again next week.
Do it all again, yeah.
All right, so we'll get out of here for the podcast. We'll stick around for some YouTube questions, and thanks for joining us despite the bad news. And until next time, bear down.
Nice. Crisp one. What do we got over here?
Boy, if only there were a couple comments that we could talk. 163 comments.
I think they're having their own show in the comment section today.
Yeah, so somebody arguing.
Maybe.
Feel free to.
I'm kind of scrolling through it here.
We're on a time crunch
We
today.
are.
So
a lot of people just wanted to. I think I want to put this game behind them. You know what I mean? Just a lot of talk about Ryan Poles, his O-line evaluation. What are McCaskey's the numbers on the Bears winning the Super Bowl?
One. What would it?
Yeah.
I mean,
hot seat week one. What do we say about Cornelius here? Talking about the hot seat. You think it's already a thing?
I mean, for Bears fans, they are.
Yeah, fans are fed up. I mean, they're close. I know Bill had a tweet earlier today where he actually had a poll about Ryan Poles. And it's interesting how quickly the narrative changes. And I think the same thing with Coach Flus. I mean, if you would have talked to people, preseason, it's hey, we're on the right track. The rebuild is where it should be. But now here it is. It's the Packers, and it's just not good.
Yeah, I mean, it's early for like a real deal like that, but I mean, if it all falls apart, I mean, you should be thinking about it, right? I mean, if you, I don't know, if you're not coaching them up, if you need to put another defensive effort out there this year, like you did last year, and last week, like I mean, or this week, yeah, it's not gonna be good. How about this one? Bucks are the easiest game for the next 6 if they don't get a win. Oh boy, from Reinhardt.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard you and Bill talk about this last night, and I thought, um, at first when I heard the like it's a must win game, I was like, week 2, come on. And then I was like, actually, week 3, I mean, everybody and their brother is I don't even know what the point spread is going to be against Kansas City. And I know they lost in the opener and all that kind of stuff, but they're going to get Kelsey back. Chris Jones just signed; he's coming back, and it's the Chiefs. Like they'll be fine. Uh, the Bears are going to be 2-score underdogs in that game. Like that's going to be a very difficult, if not impossible, game for the Bears to go down and win. So you're kind of already like really heavily penciling in an L in week 3. And yeah, if you can't go down and get a victory in Tampa, you're going to be 0-3. I mean, it's going to feel pretty much over before September ends. And that's kind of scary.
Well, a lot of fans thought, I mean, our entire crew that picks games, we all had the Bears winning this. Most of the national pundits had the Bears winning this game. The fact that they lost week 1, now there is pressure on week 2 because, like you said, the Chiefs are waiting their week 3. So, man, and then playing in Tampa, it's going to be hot. It's going to be rainy, from what I understand. You know, Baker Mayfield, he's really hot and cold. He's another guy. You got to pressure him, and if the Bears can't pressure, you know, it's a rough time for Bears fans because you know why is there a must win on week 2? It's just this is not supposed to be this way. Terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do feel it though. I think it's kind of real. Um,
Look, our guy Don's in the chat. That was a nice victory on Thursday against the Chief.
Congratulations. I mean,
Congratulations.
it's hard to watch that and be like, I felt a little bit like Kansas City lost the game
Yeah.
versus the other way, but that doesn't matter, man. Like
Yeah.
once you get that number in the win column, it doesn't matter. They can't take it
And
back. So.
let's talk about really quick the Lions, how they've built that team. Trenches. That is a great O line. That's a bunch of pass rushers, a stout, big D tackles. That GM, it was Brad Holmes, right? Brad Holmes is the Detroit GM.
Right.
He went in there and he preached it, building it old school trenches, and he's done it. I mean, I have not liked the Lions drafts the last few years because I saw these talent coming in. I'm like, man, this team, if it clicks for them, if they hit on these linemen, and then here we go.
Yeah, this year they did the we're gonna put some frosting on the cake and throw a cherry. Like they drafted a linebacker and a running back in
Yeah.
the first round, and they were saying like, oh no, we would have taken Gibbs, with our original pick without trading down. It was like, okay, like that's kind of crazy. But they're like, we're this close to being complete. So we're gonna take the best of these positions. We're gonna go. I don't know that I agree with them, but also like you do have to fill that stuff out, right? Like I think their secondary is maybe not quite what it needs to be. They could probably use another dynamic pass catcher, especially since Jameson Williams can't stay on the field, for multiple reasons. But they'll be interesting. I do think they got a ceiling because of Goff, but what are you going to do?
Yes.
And Detroit needs to just keep feeding David Montgomery as much as possible because he's not a different back. I mean, but he'll do a little better because he's got a better offensive line. But
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't anything more than. I don't think his yards per carry were even in.
I think he was 3.7, which is about what he's been for the last couple of years in Chicago. He is who he is. He's a good football player. He's solid. I understand why the Bears let him pass. Gibbs is much more of the dynamic playmaker. You know, he's just. I mean, when he runs, you could just see it. There's certain guys when you watch run, you're like, you know, that's like
See the
real.
juice.
He's got the juice, you know, and so I can't see Montgomery being their bell cow much. I think at some point they're going to really shift that. Again, we talk about rookie running backs. It's all about if they can pass block. Now Gibbs is like 199. He's not the biggest guy. I mean, he's kind of small. So if he can't pick up the blitz and he can't pass block, that'll keep him off the field. But at some point, you know, they're going to have to unleash him.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through the rest of the comments here, and
I think we're good. I think we're
there's a lot
good.
of pain. A lot of
A lot
pain,
of
guys.
pain.
I get it. I get it. Uh,
Hey, did you
uh,
see the fan post someone wrote? Our fan post section has been popping. People have been writing a lot of stuff
Good.
lately, but someone put a poem in the fan post section. I mean, the
Oh,
way it
nice.
was structured, it was like very poetic. It's definitely worth going. I actually put it to the front page. It was such a when I saw it, it was interesting. It was just let me see if I can find it here. It's I'm not going to read it, but it's titled "I'm so tired, man." It's just you read it and you're like, man, and it's got like 10,000 page views today because I put it on our front page. It is like people are into it. It's interesting. It's interesting. Go check that out, you guys.
Definitely.
It spoke to me. I'm sure it'll speak to you because we're all tired of this crap.
Yeah. This helped. Hopefully, it helped you.
Yeah.
Helped everybody. It helped me a little bit because I normally am calmed down by the time we do this show, and I'm fine. But I kind of had a feeling I wasn't going to be able to completely simmer out because there's too much that irritated me. That was, I think, it. The volume of irritation was too high, and I wasn't going to be able to let that all escape by the time we got to 6 o'clock. So many things were bad. Just the whole approach, the whole mentality was nothing. It was not as advertised, right? Like that's I think the thing that gets you is that I went to 4 practices this year. I went to the 2 combined practices. We went to 2 at Alice Hall. You know, all the things they say, all the the things that they preach, why they're doing this next, and I didn't see any of that. I didn't see any of that yesterday. I mean, if this team would have played hard and would have had like sound principles and would have been aggressive and they still lost, like, yeah, okay. Like I get it. That's fine. You're just not there talent wise. But you didn't give yourself a chance. And I can't stand for that. Like that doesn't work for me. That's the easiest way to I'm out.
It's almost like they got in their own heads. Like they overthunk what they had to do. And they're like, well, the Packers are going to think we're going to do this. So let's do this instead. It's like they got too deep with it. You know what? Good teams dictate what they want to do. They don't react, you know. Find
Exactly.
your identity as a team. If you're going to stick with a smash mouth, run the ball, then you know what? Let's be that. Let's lean into that. That's who we are. Make them stop you. That's what I want to see. That's what
And on
that kind of
defense.
yeah, that's who I want to cheer for. I want to cheer for a team like that that dictates things. You know, you're not reacting. You're the hammer, not the nail.
I I'm going to address it. The guy on the left, I'm Jeff or JB, said I met McCaskey. I took a picture with the guy at camp. It's not like I sat down for like a 20-minute interview and I didn't ask it. Like I wasn't trying to like grill him. I think by his comments throughout the years, you have an idea that he doesn't really know what he's talking about. And he says all the time, like, I'm just a fan,
He's
right?
met a
Like that.
ton of fans. Like if you go
Right.
to
Yeah.
training camp and you see
He's
George
there.
McCaskey, he will talk to you. He will spend time with you. He'll hang out. He'll do photos. He'll do selfies. Nice guy. He'll talk to anybody. He's just
But
as an
I
owner,
don't have like an
chairman.
exclusive one-on-one with him where I'm, interviewing him from Windy City or anything like that.
Just give
So
him a text. You know, let's see
yeah,
what's going on here.
Georgie, what do you think it
We need a
takes?
better pass rusher. Yeah, all good.
All right. Well, we'll get out of here, guys. We gotta put this behind us, and we gotta
Yes.
move on with our night. But appreciate you hanging out with us, and hopefully better times are ahead. Let's hope that for a better result next week, and we can talk about a W. So we'll see you guys soon.